On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, I talk with Paul Kiewiet about what the best of the best do in the industry. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and this time I'm super excited. I'm joined by a promotional products legend. Hey, he's the executive director of MIPA, Paul Kiewiet. Paul, thank you so much for joining me again.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to see you again, Kirby.
Yeah, great to see you again as well. Hey, one of the things I know about you is you've had a ton of different, I've heard you speak and you've talked about the different leadership roles that you've had in the industry. And, now you have a different leadership role as director of a regional. So what are some of the things that you've learned in being the executive director of a regional organization in the promotional products world?
Well, having been in promotional products throughout my career and in a lot of different roles, as you've mentioned, you think you've seen it all. But certain things, I think, are magnified at the regional level. And both the good and the not so good. I've always said our industry was built on paranoia. But the good news is I'm seeing that start to lessen. And that people are realizing that we're living in a transparent world now, and that there aren't so secrets. There's some people that are really hanging on like crazy to the old beliefs, but we're seeing some changes there. But probably the most impressive thing I see at the regional level is the way people can come together to work for a common cause and let the whole competitive thing fall by the wayside. It's one thing to be building something in Las Vegas for the International Association where you've got a distributor from Dallas and one from Colorado and one from Washington working together to build something. But here we've got three main competitors in Grand Rapids working together to put on a great end user show where they're going to be seeing each other's customers and they're freely sharing information to build that commonality. We do it in Detroit at Ford Field with a big end user show. We had 1,200 people at the one back in September. And again, people that on a daily basis are competing tooth and nail and probably trying to hide who their clients are, openly discussing how can we create a great experience for our clients, how can we make sure we're getting maximum value for our suppliers, how can we make sure we get a good return on investment. And seeing them work together on a local level has really been gratifying to watch and to see and to see those qualities of leadership coming through in the membership.
Yeah, that would be, and I love that. And it's one of those things where I think raising water brings up all boats. I think I'm butchering that metaphor, but I think that when you see people working together, I can see why that'd be super gratifying to you.
Yeah.
So maybe this leads nicely into my next question, which is, what are some of the things you see successful people in our industry, both sides of the business, whether it's supplier or distributor? What are some things that successful people are doing?
Well, there's some themes that I see continuing, but as I was thinking about trying to really come up with one, and I've got about three or four, but probably the biggest change I've seen is people really working on building their personal brands. They're really creating, in many years ago we talked about having a great reputation, but I think we've gone beyond that where people are building a personal brand, and to have a brand, that means you've got some core values. You've got a value proposition. You've got a certain positioning. Quite frankly, I think you've done a great job of building your brand. Bill Petrie, Mark Graham, there's a lot of young leaders that are coming up in our industry that are doing just a fantastic job of building a personal brand. And a lot of the things I'm seeing in common of the people that I admire as the upcoming leaders they're really focused on creating value. It's creating value in everything they do for everybody they come in contact with. they understand that in today's world, it's about creating experiences that people remember and are touched and are moved when they've had a moving experience. And stories. And I think storytelling has become such an important, it's always been important, but I think social media and the way we communicate has made that even more important today, that we relate telling stories.
Yeah.
In my blogs that I do, I thought it was kind of a silly piece. I talked about getting a haircut and about getting the hot towel treatment and paying a lot more, but that hot towel treatment was the experience. Yeah. And I didn't think it was that great of a blog piece, but I got so many comments from my readers going, "That's my favorite one." I'm like, really? My story about hot towels on my face? But storytelling is something that I see leaders today have become very good at, and being able to tell it through a lot of different medium and share it socially.
No, that's great advice, and quite frankly, I appreciate the compliment. You've probably heard me say, I believe everybody in today's world is a media company, and when it goes to your point about storytelling, so thank you. I appreciate the shout out. I'm sure the other guys do too. So one thing, and you and I have worked a little bit together on this, but you're a leader on a monthly webinar series, and that's interesting to me because I think education is so important. Why do you think that it's important for a region to have a monthly webinar series like that?
You kind of broke up on that one.
Okay. Well, let me ask the question again. Okay. So you've created a monthly webinar series. Why do you think it's important to the region and the industry to have that?
Well, as you mentioned, I think education is so important today, because this is going to lead right into the question I'm going to throw back at you. But with the way things are changing so rapidly, everyone practicing in this industry needs to learn from each other and share from each other. And you're offering me a real softball for plugging Wild Wednesday webinars, which is something that MIPA did create and has been doing for a couple of years now. And we've got a huge library. We've got like 36 recorded webinars of some of the top thought leaders in our industry. And I find that exciting because a lot of distributors and suppliers may have never thought of formalizing a referral program. We've got that. Yeah. Of learning of how to make product safety a competitive advantage. We've got that. Of how to find extra advertising dollars through co-op advertising. We've got that. And for free, sitting at their desk on the last Wednesday of every month, people get to hear people like you, like Mark Graham, like Danny Rosen, like Bill Petrie, leaders like Cliff Quicksell, all of these people sharing totally generously and completely, because we live on a regional association budget. Nobody gets paid for it. And again, it goes back to my first point of the willingness of people in this industry to share their knowledge and to help along everybody. And the quote is, "A rising tide raises all ships," for sure.
Well, cool. Thank you so much, Paul. You've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have one for me?
Yes, I do. I'm guessing there's probably about a 20-year difference between you and I, and would like you to think of it's 2036. How are you relating to the industry, and how's the industry relating to each other? How are people buying promotional products in 2036?
Wow, that's a good one. How are people doing it? I think I've kind of said that I feel like we're at a crossroads as an industry where I feel like each company sort of needs to pick a lane. Whether you're going to be price sellers, which is fine, or if you're going to be added value, added service. And so, I mean, honestly, I think that the best, over the next 5 to 10 years, I think the best distributors are those that are going to add services and values. So become a little bit more like an ad agency, not just be so product driven. And so, I think that those companies that do that are going to succeed. How I'm going to be looked at in 20 years, that's a great question. I think that's probably a better question for my wife. She can decide what somebody might think of me in 20 years. But my hope is, to your point, that I'll be still providing value, because that is definitely something that I am focused on. Just trying, whether you're a customer, whether you're a peer, that hopefully I can provide some motivation, inspiration, and education in the content I create. And if I'm doing that, that'll be a win.
Fantastic. Great.
Paul, thank you so much for joining me. We'll have to do it again. That's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching, but wait! Can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done it already. The way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe!